My name is Erik Boonman. I'm the head of origination at Statkraft and the co-chair of AITA's Business Partnership for Market Readiness, or the B-PMR. And the B-PMR assists the business community in developing countries who are implementing carbon pricing policy tools via capacity building. We've done workshops in China in the pilot schemes, but also in South Korea, South Africa, Kazakhstan and Mexico. I work for Statkraft. Statkraft is Europe's largest renewable energy producer, producing over 55 terawatt hours of renewable power, mainly hydro and wind power. We have operations also in North and South America, in Asia and in Africa. We've been active in the emission trading scheme since the inception of the EU ETS in 2005, both as a compliance buyer as well as a service provider to our clients. We're active in the voluntarily and in the mandatory markets, and we're covering the EU ETS, Californian carbon markets, RGGI carbon markets and the global-based project markets. We're continuously monitoring the development in carbon pricing policy tools around the world, and we see many of these bottom-up initiatives appearing around the world which have a potential to be linked in the future, which makes it a very fascinating market. Today, I would like to talk about offsets, how your company can take advantage of them, what are the unique risks and challenges, and how do you address them. Offsets are often an integral part of an emission trading scheme. It tends to lower the overall compliance cost, and you as a corporation will have to make a fundamental choice. Do you see carbon as a cost and compliance center only, or do you also see it as a profit center? If your company can reduce carbon reductions in your factories below the market price, you should invest into those offset projects. If you cannot do that below the market price, you should simply buy them in the market. Whether or not you decide to invest in your own projects or buy them in the market, you will have to deal with a few unique risks. The first one is the project and volumetric risk. The expected performance of the project might deviate from the expectations. For example, there could be a permit delay, there could be construction delay, but if you have a wind project, if there's less wind outside, you will generate less carbon credits. Similar, if there's a solar farm and there's less sun outside, you will generate less carbon credits. How do you deal with that? Well, you could, for example, only contract a portion of the contract, let's say 80% of the expected output. You could decide not to invest in only one project, but in a bundle of projects, building up a well-diversified portfolio spread across technologies and stages. And last but not least, you could decide to hire a technical engineer who can assess the viability of the project better. Next to the project and volumetric risk, there's regulatory risk. Every market is subject to regulations. However, this market has been created by regulations and is therefore enormously sensitive to any change in regulations. For example, if your government decides that certain methodologies in offsets are no longer eligible, you will end up with a stranded asset. Your government could also decide that suddenly you no longer can submit one offsets for the compliance value of one allowances, but you need two. That will have an effect on your project as well. You can partly mitigate that by change in law contracts, clauses into your contract. Then there are some more risks which are not unique to offsets, but for example, you run reputation risk and counterparty and credit risk, which you can deal with proper know your customer onboarding procedures, assessing the creditworthiness of your counterparty and assigning credit lines. Last but not least, when you are investing in a project, you're exposed to the market price. And in order to protect your profits, you need to hedge that exposure in the market. In my own experience, hiring a technical consultant is well worth the investment for large investments. Building up a portfolio of a well-diversified across technologies is important as well, because a single project tends to be quite volatile. If you have multiple projects, that volatility tends to balance each other out, and thereby increasing the risk reward of your portfolio. And I also would recommend you to hire a reputable law firm, because you would like to have a good contract where the incentive of both parties, the buyer and the seller, are fully aligned, both in good market circumstances as well as in bad market circumstances. To conclude, offsets are often an integral part of an emission trading scheme. They tend to lower the overall compliance cost, but they will come with unique risks, like the project and the volumetric risk, the regulatory risk, and also counterparty and market risk. If you're able to properly address these risks, you will find out that offsets will not only lower your compliance costs, but could actually generate profit next to your normal business. I wish you good luck with your offset projects.